Good morning, welcome to today's class. I'm thinking about renaming this class into a handstand class because that's really what I've been focusing on for the last few months. So if you don't have a handstand yet, you're obviously welcome to take it. You know, it's not that you have to do it, but everything is optional in any class that I teach. And it's to help build up better practice. I think of often like when people are looking to better their yoga or say even just a sun salutation, I think a handstand's an excellent place to start. So it'll help with back bending. I do a little bit of mobility for the wrists and the shoulders. As you practice more, we'll all see, everybody individually will see what they actually need more of to help develop a handstand, and it's just a good pose to have that you could do at any time. Kind of going back about the wrist, I've been on my hands very much for a good portion of almost my whole life. So there's days that I don't necessarily do a lot of wrist work, so I can just do a handstand pretty much any time, and I'd like you to get to that level too. So that's what this class is for, and especially if you've been doing yoga for a while, because yoga is heavily, it's more based in flexibility. So if you hurt from your yoga practice, it's good to just kind of put all the flexibility stuff, not completely out the window, but as you get stronger, you'll feel much healthier, much better, and then you can always go back to those things, which, I believe in classic yoga, obviously, but maybe you're not quite there yet. That's why I have this class. So if you have a problem with your knees, there's ways we can make this class easier and better for you where you could elevate your heels, because I do some squatting in the class. So know that that's always available. I'm very close to finishing a program based on healing knees. So if you know someone that just couldn't take this class, they'd like to run again, they'd like to dance again, that's what that program's for, because you don't want to just say like my knees are shot, I can't do these things. You can definitely do a lot more. So that's again another reason why I have this class. So what you'll need for this particular practice is 2 blocks. And that'll help strengthen your hands, your forearms. So if you strengthen the forearms, the grip, it's so much easier to do a handstand. Like if I do any kind of passive hanging or pull-ups or anything like that, it's so much easier to do a handstand after. If I had a pull-up bar, that could be like a practice in itself. So how we're gonna start is in a standing position. So I'm gonna come up onto my hands and my knees, I'm gonna come back up, and then when I come up, I'm just gonna have my feet just about the width of my hips. It can be wider, certainly. So if you have restriction in your ankles or your knees, definitely have your feet apart. You could turn your feet up. These are just ankle pulses. So I'm just bending the knees and then just straightening the legs out. So in just doing this, what I would look for is what's moving well, what's not moving well. Tune into like the tissues, because the tissues may not glide as well as they should. So if we just went into a really big motion, the smallest motion might be better for you. So again, when we get into like squatting and stuff like this, you could doing these ankle pulses. So I'm not trying to sit as low as I can. It's just a partial bend in the knees, and then I'm going to come up. And then say you could do this much longer than I am. I'm just going to do about 10 reps. But if you set a timer for 2 to 3 minutes and just did this, you might see that one leg is actually fatiguing more than the other, and it could be that leg is weaker, but it could also be that you're relying on one leg more than the other, and you may not know it. That's why I'm doing this. So just come back up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll into my right ankle, and then roll into my left, and then as I roll, a big portion of what you can do is how malleable the feet are. So if your feet are really tight, it's going to be very difficult to forward bend, do any kind of hip opening, and it has its effect in the spine. So when I'm going to my right and I'm going to my left, like any weighted position in terms of manipulating a joint or tissues, you want to see if you need more weight or less weight. Because you know, say you have a history of a rolled ankle, more probably would be what you don't need. You need it, right? But you don't need an extreme weight, you know. Eventually it could be greater than your own body weight, right? So just come back into the middle and then just go back to the ankle pulses. You know, a static position has its place, but if you're a person that has been doing yoga, motion, now I'm not saying that it's better, but it's probably going to teach you more. So I'm a big fan of both. So if I do a lot of yoga through the week, more towards the end of the week, I'm going to do more movement, or you know, maybe some weight training or body weight training, just so that my joints feel very well. So just come back, and then when you come back, what you're going to do is just be moving the pelvis. So I'm just going to be, this is a big part of the handstand, is just stick your butt out and then bring your tailbone down and in. And when you bring your tailbone down and in, you should feel that the glutes are working, the abdomen is working. And if you're weak in your abdomen, you're going to see that you kind of stand like this. So you want the tailbone to move down and the abdomen to move in and the ribs in. And you can take the arms overhead if you want to make it more physical. And then I'm going to stick my butt out, right? And then I'm going to pull the tailbone down, make the front of my body strong. And I'm going to stick my butt out again. And then I'm going to tuck the tailbone and pull the abdomen in. A good practice is you could just hold this position. Arms could be in any position, right? But this is something that'll help stretch out your back, but it'll also help with the handstand. So you can just bend the knees, take the arms down, just kind of play around with how much you can squat. You want to take the arm forward and just kind of sit a little bit lower, just to give you a little variety. And you don't have to squat as low as me, but say you want to squat a couple times, I'm going to bring the hips back, arms are a counterbalance. I'm going to bring myself up, and then one more time I'm going to squat. And you know, with the squat, like when you get to a level, and the feet can be very wide, feet could turn out, right? But with a squat, especially early in practice, I would see what's stopping you from squatting more. And that's a great insight to have. So if you're like, oh, I can get low, but you don't want to get so low that something obviously hurts or pops, right? That's obviously not going to help you. So bring it up just a little bit, like just a little lower than the knees, and bring yourself all the way back up to standing. And then when you're standing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my arms through space. So I'm going to circle my arms. It doesn't matter which arm is out in front, but take note of which arm is out in front. Like my right arm is underneath my left as I'm circling out. And you can move really slow. So say you got something going on in your shoulder, maybe only do 5 of these, right? But as you are doing these, you'll get really strong through the outsides of the shoulders. And that's another big part of what will support you in coming or being up in a handstand. So probably at like 15, maybe 20. You want to get something stronger, no matter what it is. It should get tired. So if you're doing your yoga practice and you're like, wow, that was easy, you're going to want to get the muscular body stronger to support you so that you will be building better practice. So just a few more. You can make the motion really big, right? And then just bring it back, and you can just kind of shake up the arms. So I'm just going to do a bit of side bending, just a passive side bend to my left, and my whole right side's developing. So different than a triangle or any kind of side bend in yoga is I'm just passively hanging here, which will help. QL is a big part of why people really struggle in their back. So this really focuses more on the QL. Then bring yourself up and then just side bend to the right. And then as you side bend to the right, just like I said about leverage is maybe you don't need all of your weight carrying out to the side, right? Maybe it's just a partial side bend could be way healthier than, say, again, a greater range of motion. And then bring yourself back up, and then just turn from your pelvis, turn from your head, and then you're just twisting, just a standing twist. But again, just move the tailbone down a little bit, rise through the upper body, and then turn center. You could turn from the pelvis or the head. Just turning from either the lower or the upper portion of the spine will give you, feedback. So just basic stuff, it can lead to, more dynamic practice, right, which we're working up towards. Take one more breath, and then you can turn forward and you can bring the arms. I'm going to do some more circles of the arms, but now I'm going to circle forward. So I'm circling forward, just like a swimmer. As I'm moving my arms, just the speed really doesn't matter. It could be really slow, it could be faster than me if you really wanted to. But, like anything that I'm new, I just get really familiar with the exercise, the technique, and then you can make it your own, There's many ways to practice. So use your feet as you're using your arms, right? About 10 more. And when I do these, I usually just time them. If I need to focus more mentally, I'll count. Like if I'm really kind of scattered, counting is a great meditation. So, and it could be, start with like 10 and build to 30, and this could be way more, right? And then I'm just gonna bring the arms down, I'm gonna shake it out, I'm gonna come down onto my hands and my knees. So then as I'm on my hands and my knees, I'm gonna just turn my hands out, and then I'm just moving the weight around. And then as I'm moving the weight around, I'm adding more flexion of the wrist, which is the handstand. But like I said, maybe you need just very little pressure. And if you have a lot of experience with being on your hands, maybe you don't even need these, like I said earlier. So I'm gonna come back into the middle, I'm gonna turn my hands in, and then I'm gonna do a circular motion. And this is the first time I'm doing this today. So what I'm seeing is just observing if I need more range or less range. More isn't always better, right? Circle around the opposite direction. And then as you're circling around, you might discover that one hand is tighter, one wrist isn't moving as well. And then come back into the middle and turn the hands forward and just push to the hands and round the shoulders. So a lot like a cat stretch, but this is your handstand. This is very much of your handstand. So if you can keep that when you go up, you're more than likely to just get lucky and balance for a few seconds. Like you could really hold it. Maybe you can get your first 5-10 seconds of a hold. And then just come back in the middle, and what I'm gonna do is lift the heels of my hands off the floor, and then lower, lift, and lower. You can lift it up, and lower. You can lift it up. See, it's really difficult, like it's just hard. Probably the best thing for you. Like something like this. Anything that's based in strength, that's, again, not gonna hurt you, is so good. So that's why I like introducing a handstand to someone, is because it'll really help rehabilitate the body in many ways. So just have the hands back now. And then with the hands back, I'm just going to move the weight side to side, which is going to be easier than moving forward and back. Right, so I'm just moving side to side. Those of you that are on Instagram, I've been having some problems. I think they're okay, but if they don't, if we get cut off, know that I'm on Facebook, and you could take the class live or just observe on Facebook. And then I'm also filming it with another camera, which I'll upload it onto my YouTube channel. So just come back in the middle, and I'm gonna rock back, and I'm gonna move forward, I'm gonna go back, and then forward, and then going back. And then the last thing you can do is just bring the backs of the hands to the floor, and then side to side. So if I was working with you individually, like I said, I may only use a little bit of this, but then say someone couldn't do a handstand and it was just, this was the best thing for them, well then that's what I would use more of. So it's not so much like, I wish it was, everybody should be doing the same practice, but it's very, everybody should be doing it a little bit differently. So come back into the middle, turn the hands forward, and then just round through the shoulders and lift up into your first plank. So I always say this because some friends of mine are like, what's up with your plank? It looks horrible, or whatever. So a gymnastic plank is different than a yoga plank. Not that a yoga plank is incorrect, but if you're really trying to work a handstand, you want to get more hollowed through the front of your body. And if you're not in the hollow position, you could certainly learn a handstand. Now I'm on the tops of my feet, and I'm just kind of playing around with the weight. And as I'm playing around with the weight, I'm pushing through the fingertips to the knuckles, and then I'm going to lower my knees down. And then as I lower my knees down, I'm going to sit back just far enough so that my hips are over my knees, and I'm going to reach the arms forward. So I'm on my fingertips, and I'm trying to keep the ribs in. So remember when we were in that posterior tilt? That's what I'm doing here, is to help with, again, strengthening the front of the body, open the shoulders. So you can bring the head down. It's not bad to collapse, right? That's a good thing. But it's just, if you're wanting to get more of a better line in your handstand, I'm keeping the belly and the ribs in. So you could bring the, if I was working like scorpion or something like that, I get the chin down and I'd be working that, right? So just come back up onto your hands and your knees, and this is where I'll use the blocks. So I'm going to have my blocks underneath my shoulders. I'm going to lift up into the plank. You don't have to be on the blocks, but like I said, it's going to help strengthen the hands. So like squeezing in the block, like hanging from a bar is what I'm mentioning, can be really helpful. So pull it back up into a down dog, pedal the legs out, move the feet. And this will help with squatting. But, like in any setting that you've probably been, exposed to, you're probably not working the heels down enough. And that can really, start out small, 10. Do 10 for a week every day, and build it up to like 50, or more. So like getting the heels down. So swing forward and through into an up dog. And I'm doing this just to, again, warm you up, but more so like, you want to feel great from any class that you're taking. Pull back up into a down dog. Pull back through the thighs, pull back through the hips. Come forward, come through again. So lift the chin, lift the chest, front of the body. Tense, hips, are tense to some degree. You could be on the tops of your feet. It's more of a preference. Then you can pull back up into a down dog. And then what you'll do is take your right leg up to the ceiling so your right leg is high, and then bring your knee and nose together. Pull it in, and then take it up. And then just open the hip. So just opening up through the hip. And again, because when we get into more like deeper, wider positions, just kind of see how your hips move. I'm doing like a really small circular motion with my knee. And it's not like 3 here, 3 there, in terms of rotation. I'm really just trying to see like where I need to lift my knee or my thigh. And then bring the right leg down, and then take the left leg up, and then bring the knee and nose together, pull it in, take it up, and then open up the knee so the left foot is dropping over the right hip, and just kind of move it around in space a little bit. So if I move it forward, there's a lot less stress. If I move it back, there's obviously a lot more, but you want to kind of see what angle is going to help develop the hip more. And then you can bring the left foot down. Now, come off the blocks and just walk your hands back towards your feet. So eventually, I really like walking up the wall for people. So walk the hands forward just in front of the blocks, and then walk the hands back. So just walking the hands back. One more time, I'm going to walk it forward, and then I'm going to come into my plank again. So plank round through the shoulders, pull the abdomen in,
Take a couple deep breaths here, and then go back up into a down dog. So take your right leg up to the ceiling so the right leg is high, and then bring the knee and nose together, pull it in, take it up, and then step the right foot forward. And then with the right foot forward, take the arms up into an overhead position so you could open and close the hands. Really trying to keep the front of the body in to help support, again, a better handstand. So just lightly bring the back knee down on the floor and untuck the toes and lift the back knee up off the floor. So just a different variation, but being able to lift up, move is a sign of, you're strong, you're healthy. You should be able to transition in your poses. And if you can't, right, there's ways to build it back up again. So know that it's not all like, can't do this. Just, you have to adapt it. Then bring the hands down and then step back into a plank. Now you could just hold plank. I'm going to lower to a chaturanga and then come up into an up dog. So again, I'm just using this as a general warm up. So I'm moving my head in space just to kind of see where I need to turn my body and then back up into a down dog. If I always do it the same way, you could be crooked for years. So it's good to move around. Take the left leg up in space, bring the knee and nose together, pull it in, take it up, and then step the left foot forward. And then with the left foot forward, just in a low lunge, coming up into a high lunge. But think of, again, tailbones down, abdomen's in, ribs are in. And if you're doing a particular yoga sequencer pose outside of handstand, the pelvis could be different. It's just for handstanding, right, you want the belly to be in, you want the tailbone to be down, and that's something that I struggle with. So I'm doing it so that it gets more habitually just better, right? Bring the hands down. Bring the back knee down, untuck the toes, and then lift the back knee up off the floor. So you're just in a straight line. You can take the arms up overhead. Like I said, I'm not going to move you around, but if you couldn't move from these positions, that's why you want to get stronger, because life will obviously throw you curveballs where you have to move, and that's why I'm, stressing that point. So bring the ribs in, bring the hands down. You can tuck the toes again. Step back to a plank, lower to a chaturanga, elbows are in, come up into an up dog, that's if you are, and then pull back up into a down dog. And then just come down onto your knees, and then have the toes tucked, and sit back towards the feet. Now you could drag your blocks with you too. You don't have to sit all the way back. So if I couldn't sit all the way back, I'd bring my hands forward, and I'll go back partially. And that'll lead, most likely it'll lead to you coming all the way up. But the problem is people do too much too soon, and then they just don't get all the way back. Or people just get frustrated with having, in their opinion, a lousy handstand. Like, I can't do this. It's a process, and it's well worth working up towards. It's definitely, that's a big reason why I teach a handstand class as opposed to a headstand class. Not that I have anything against a headstand, but you're going to get way stronger from a handstand. A completely different kind of strength. And, sometimes handstand gets a bad rap, like it's not a yoga pose or whatever, but it's an excellent position. And, if it was up to me, like, everybody should work up to it to some extent, like maybe not fully up, right? So come back where you're untucking the toes and just sit back on the feet, which should feel pretty nice from being on the toes. I'm just going to take my right arm back, just some stretching. So I'm very much into rotational back bends, which are really usually introduced in yoga very late, like in practice. But I believe that they should be introduced way sooner than that. So you don't have to go far back, but it's great leverage into the upper back. And then you can bring yourself up. Then you can go to the left, and then just walking the hand back however far do you need to, and you could get to the elbow if you wanted to.
But if I was practicing on my own, I may only just turn to my right, because twisting to my right is way more challenging. They're good to do both, obviously, right? So we're gonna get into the first handstand, but when I'm, just have the hands out in front of you and just retract the shoulders. And this is sometimes taught in yoga, and not to disrespect anybody, but that you want your shoulders to be rounded. You want protraction. And when you're protracting, like I said, you're not just gonna get the 2-3 second of up. You could get like 30 seconds if you can protract the shoulders and if you can keep the arms straight. So I know it's a little bit scary, but how I've been doing it of late is just practice kicking up and down. So it's more in terms of conditioning. So, you know, to kick up, you can get really strong from just kicking. You know, and that, you know, I learned that more from, you know, just the school or the art of capoeira. You know, they'll do handstands for like 30 minutes or an hour before they actually do their art, you know. But and you go to a circus school, they'll do like tons and tons of handstands, which has its place, right? So I'm gonna go to the wall. You wanna be about 6 to 8 inches away from the wall. If you're just learning to kick up some of the way and down. And I'll instruct you, but I'm gonna kick up with one leg. The leg that you're kicking up with is the leg that you're bringing down. And then that other leg is gonna be going down and then going up. So you can get a really nice rhythm, and we'll shoot for 5 each side. And say you only kick up with one leg, it's fine, right? It's a process, you have to start somewhere. So I'm gonna go to the wall just so that you can see this, but I'm gonna have my hands, you know, just underneath the shoulders and just move the weight around. And let's say you're just like, I don't know about this. You know, just watch. You could do that, right? But you could also just kind of, you can do this. You know, you can get your arms strong and straight. If you're a little bit out of shape, or, you know, you're carrying a little bit of extra weight, you know, stick with plank. And as plank gets better, then you can go up into your hand. You can try your handstand, right? But push through the hands, round through the shoulders, and pull through the belly, pull through the ribs. And I'm gonna swing my right leg up, and then bring my right leg down. And then I'm gonna swing my left leg up, and then bring my left leg down, and then swing my right leg up. Push through the hands, right leg comes down, left leg comes up, push through the hands, bring the ribs in, bring the right leg down, bring the left leg up, bring the left leg down, bring the right leg up. Push through the hands, bring the right leg down, bring the left leg up. Now the last one, if you can, point through the toes. Just take the foot a little bit away from the wall. And then as you're in that, really it's a lot about the pelvis. So try to pull the tailbone up. And then if you can get that, then it's gonna help in breaking a habit in terms of just being kind of swayed in the lower back, which is really common. So just come down into a squat, and then into a squat, just move, look at your right hand and just move the fingers individually. So if the fingers don't necessarily move like mine are, it's okay, but it really helps to look. So getting your fingers to move independently is good. It's a very good thing to develop. And then also moving the toes individually is a really good thing to develop. So just bring the left hand up, and then I'm just spiraling the fingers, and then creating like more of a clench in the hands. And that'll, you know, like I said, it's say the bones just don't move as well as they used to. It's good to stretch them out. It's good to move them. Both are obviously part of that. Just open and close the hands, and then just make your right hand just into a flat position, and then just push down into that. Now I'm squatting, you know, for you it's probably been a minute. Heels can be up. You know, if you come out of a squat and your back hurts, you want extension most likely. I happen when I come out of a squat, like a long squat, my back doesn't hurt, but you know, I know people do. So bring the back of the left hand into a flat position. It's kind of like what we did in the very beginning, and then just push just gently with the right hand if you need more leverage. You can just drop the elbows too, or just bring both hands together and elbows drop, but that'll help you. So come back to where your toes are tucked and your knees are down. You're gonna bring the knees up. You're gonna bring them forward. Take them up. Bring them forward. Take them up. One more time, bring them forward. And then bring them back into the untucked position. So this will help with getting you to squat a little bit more, but get in the habit of practicing it throughout the day and you'll be able to squat. Like when I'm playing with my son, I'm generally down in the squat and we're just playing, when we, Legos or whatever we're playing, it's just getting down, and that could be you folding laundry, or, when I was in India, I'd cut up my vegetables like that. So I'm gonna come onto my hands and my knees. So I usually do a pike push-up at towards the end of the class, but there's something about really kind of getting, not fried, right? But when you really push a little bit more than you're used to, it's sometimes easier to get into a handstand, or but you'll know, like we'll do the pike push-up. So I'll teach it how you would do it as a negative, and then we'll do like 5 if we can, right? So when I'm up on a higher level, it's more difficult. So if you're just learning these, start with your hands turned out and your hands on the floor. But I'm going to do it to build up a little bit more strength in your hands, your forearms, if you're up for it, right? So I'm going to come up into a plank, and the pike push-ups, they're pretty short. And if you don't have a lot of strength, make them long. It's okay. You have a shoulder injury, don't do these, right? It's just, if you've done a ton of chaturangas in your yoga practice and that was the worst thing for you, just stick to straight arm positions and your shoulder will get better, your wrist will get better, and then we can go back to bent arm positions, right? So I'm gonna lift up, and then I'm gonna come forward. And the first one, I'm pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then I'm gonna come down with my knees, and then you could come up. So that's a way of doing it. And say that was really hard. Do another one later today, and do a couple before you go to sleep or something like that, right? But it's muscle integration that you're lacking, not necessarily strength. So I'm gonna tuck the toes, I'm gonna lift the hips, and then when I come down, I'm gonna resist, and then I'm gonna push up. And it could be a little bit stronger on the up. Doesn't have to be really quick though. So slow, then push up. Pull back, slow. Push it back up. And do 2 more. I'm just gonna make it a little shorter. So forward, up. And then forward. Concentrate on your weak hand or arm. Push it back up. And then, just come up into a down dog. Pull back up into a down dog. Pull back through the hips. Right? Swing forward and through into an up dog. Use your blocks. Elevate your chest. Elevate your head. See where your torso moves in space. Go back up into a down dog. And then just walk the feet forward to the middle of your mat. And just bring your hands down. You can move the blocks off the side if you're not using them. Just hang in a ragdoll position. So you don't have a history of back pain. Round your back. Pull the belly in. Roll yourself up. Right, bring yourself up. And then when you're up, just go back to practicing a little bit of the pelvis. So stick your butt out and then pull it down and in. Pull the ribs in. Like again, if you men usually have too much of a posterior tilt. It's not that they should never do this, they actually should. But for women, it's really common, and in some men, is that you want the tailbone to move down, the pubis to lift up, and that'll help you the way that you stand. But it can even also be a healthy reminder when you sit, like when you think of a woman, she has really good posture, she's probably too swayed in the lower back, and that can be a negative. So stick the butt out again, and then just tuck it, and then take the arms overhead, bring the ribs in, exhale, take the arms down. So what we're going to do is take the feet out nice and wide, and with the feet out wide, just going to turn the feet out, and then I'm in a kind of a wide horse stance. But like I did in the very beginning of class with the ankle pulses, maybe that high position is actually really good for you. So lower is in the yoga world, it's viewed as, gosh, that's where I need to get to, but it's not necessarily the case. But when I'm here, what I'm doing is I'm just training your legs so your legs are getting stronger and preparing you for a deeper bend in the knee, because we're going to get into doing some single leg squats. So just make it a little longer if you're going to be doing this. But for those of you that struggle with one-legged squats, like Cossack stretches or Skandasana, is that you'd have the heels elevated. So roll up like a secondary mat and then put it up underneath your heels. So I'm going to go into my right side, and then I'm not sitting incredibly low, and I've been saying this in the last few classes, is usually people have the majority of the weight in the right side, which can be healthy, but I'm just moving more weight into my left leg and hand over, and this scans back to more martial arts positions. So as I'm over here, then it's working more of like the middle splits. And then bring yourself back up, and then go over to the left leg. Now again, when the right foot turns in, the back foot, just bring the weight, hands over to the right side. And again, leverage, if we could measure it, start out with a little bit of weight, extra weight, and then you could work up to a higher weight. And an external weight could work too. But the more flexible you are, the less weight you need. And that's really important to know. So like someone that does yoga, you don't need a 50-pound dumbbell or kettlebell or plate. You probably hurt yourself with extra weight. But if you were a guy like a runner, a triathlete, you could load up a significant amount of weight because you're just so tight. But as you get more flexible, don't be crazy. I'm going to lift the toes of the left foot, and I'm just kind of widening out the thighs, widening out the hips. I'm going to push through the right foot. I'm going to bring myself up. I'm going to go to the left side. And like I said, if you're like, I need a chair, I can't use my legs, something hurts, of course use those things. Use a wall. That's just smart. Lift the toes of the right foot and just kind of see where you need, again, the weight. I'm pretty flexible in a lot of ways, but I still have a lot of work in my glutes. So that's where I'm bringing the weight, but for you it might be different. Drive through the left foot, bring yourself up, go to the right again. And I'm doing this a little bit slower, a little bit different than some of the other classes, but because the kick-ups is a little different, but it's kind of the same kind of power. But here I'm just working more your inner thigh, so that I'm working more middle splits last couple classes. So broaden your hip, broaden your thighs, push through the right foot, bring yourself up, and then go to the left, and then as you load up the left leg, you're getting more into the hips. And then drive yourself back up. So we're gonna go back into a handstand again. So again, if you just can't do that, do a plank. We'll kick up a little bit, and then we'll practice a little bit of balance. But like if I couldn't, especially on days that you just can't balance, think of those are days that you're just practicing kicking up. And that's a great, great way. Because again, people get frustrated with not balancing, but if they practice kicking up more, At the worst case scenario, you're gonna get stronger. Obviously, if you're pushing it too much, you possibly could get hurt. But it's, I thank goodness I've never injured myself doing a handstand. I mean, it can happen, right? But again, that's one of the main reasons why I like it so much. So similar to what we did earlier is kick the right leg up, bring the right leg down, kick the left leg. It's good for coordination. If you're really trying to work on your line, look to the heel of your hand or possibly look to the wall that's behind you. Looking to the hand is good for like scorpion or some other things in yoga or just postural, but having a more neutral head can really help with a better line. So push to the hands, round through the shoulders, grip through the fingers. Again, be on a yoga mat if you're not slippery, sliding, sweating. Be on a yoga mat, right? That's smart. I'm just doing it just so that I don't have to spend some more time with the mat. So I'm bringing the belly in, bringing the ribs in. I'm gonna swing my right leg up. Bring my right leg down. So I'm gonna hold it for a couple seconds up, and then I'm gonna come up. Push, push, push. Bring the left leg down. Keep the ribs in. Bring the right leg up. Look right to the heels of the hands. If you can, right leg comes down, slow. Bring the left leg up. Push, push, push. Bring the ribs in. Left leg comes down. Right leg comes up. Right leg comes down. Left leg comes up. Last time, bring it up. So push, bring the ribs in, heads in, and then just move your 1 foot away from the wall. And then bring the left leg or the right leg down. Come back into a squat. So back into a squat, you could elevate the heels of the feet. Just gonna open and close the hands. So you open and close the hands, right? I say this from time to time, but on days that you feel strong, get your practice in. Just practice. I'm more of a proponent of practicing throughout the day as opposed to just I'm gonna wake up, do 2 hours of practice. I've done that before and that works, but as you get older, it's a little bit more difficult to keep things moving as well as they should. So I like little practices, and when I do have a little bit of extra time, they're not long practices, but they're a little bit longer than say 20 minutes, or more like 45 minutes or 60 minutes. But again, I like more of it spread out. So just bring the backs of the hands into together, and just drop the elbows, and just see how you're holding the weight in your feet. Arms could rest on the knees, because then you're not so tense in the shoulders. So take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. And then what we're gonna do is go back to the pike push-ups. So if not that I'm not a fan of push-ups, that's definitely easier. So you could do those, like say you just couldn't do the pike push-ups. You could do push-ups, and there's kind of a negative tone with people being on their knees and doing that's good. It's all weighted. It's just some people need 10 pounds of weight and some people can do more weight. That's all it really is. It's just different kind of weights. Right? So I'm gonna come onto the blocks again. I'm gonna lift up through the hips. And then as I lift up through the hips, I'm gonna push back through the thighs. I'm gonna walk the feet in a little bit closer. And again, you could always do negatives. You just come down and you go to your knees and then you go back up, right? So resist coming down. Resist, resist, resist. Bring yourself up. Slow, 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 slow. Push it up. Bring it forward, bring it forward, bring it forward. Bring it up. And not that you're crushing the blocks, but
The stronger the squeeze, the stronger the hands will get. Push. Do 2 more. Slow, 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 slow. Push it up. And then slow, 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 slow. Push it up. Not that a slow come up is bad, but it's not as needed as a slow descent or negative. Just come back onto the toes and sit back on the heels. Right? Untuck the toes, sit back on the feet. And sit back on the toes. Right? Lift the knees. Right? And bring yourself up. And then as you come back up, I'm going to do some more rotation back bends, but like what I did in the very beginning of class, if your knees can handle it on the knees more passively, that's an excellent way. You could do that again. I'm going to do a more active version. So, like I said earlier, I really like just partial motions. Partials will lead to a much greater motion. It's just flashier to get lower. So, if you have a chair, you just put the chair, beside you. In yoga, it's really taught usually heels down, but it's a different kind of strength when the heels are up. I'm not saying one is better than the other, they're just different. It's most likely going to be easier on your back having your heels up. So in learning this, just keep the heels up and it'll really strengthen the muscles around the knees. So that's why I like heels up. Again, I lean more towards that's better for people initially. So I'm lifting the heels, I'm just turning, right? And if I wasn't doing a video, I'm happy with this. I mean, this is plenty, but if I wanted to go back, my knees are gonna have to travel more forward in order to go back. Like, knees have to go forward in this type of stance, or you just have to make it longer. So, but I like it short for the simple reason is that it's not so scary that it's far away from you. But if you're comfortable with this and it's kind of heavy and you're not going to fall over, you could certainly be more forward and reach back. And that's actually less stress on your back. So I'm going to do the opposite side. So I'm going to just bring the blocks over here. I'm just going to go to my right. And then as I'm going to the right, I'm looking to the hand. I'm lifting the heels. I'm reaching for the block. I'm bringing myself up. Turning. And this is why it's so good to do both positions. I mean, I'm a big proponent of just doing one side, but it's actually more difficult today to go to my left. It's usually my right. So I'm lifting my heels, I'm reaching for the block, and then I'm coming up. But you could get lower, you could drop back into wheel and bring yourself up. That all has its place. But what you're gonna do is just come down on the floor and take your legs out wide. And with your legs out wide, you're gonna have, just gonna work on coming forward. So it's great to be on a higher surface. So if you're a person that's typically more posterior, tighter hamstrings, tighter adductors, definitely sit on something higher. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my arms out wide, which adds extra weight, and that's gonna bring me more forward. Not that more forward is better, right? But it's definitely more of a stretch. But when you get into like pressing into handstands, this definitely has it carryover where it's gonna help to do that. And bring yourself up, and then you can come forward. And bringing yourself up. Now, let's say you're like, you bring your legs in, but get in the practice of, don't stop just because something's difficult, right? You might wanna, might actually need it more. Again, if it hurts you, then don't do it. But taking the hands behind the head adds a different kind of weight, and I wanna lead from my belly.
I don't want to just get my head or my arms to the floor. I want to lead from my abdomen and then coming up. Now, coming up, so when you come forward, it can be really kind of tough on your back. What I said about flexibility is maybe you want to come down with the weight, but you want to come up with your arms. Because I've been there before where I've had some extra weight, and it's a little hard because I've been doing yoga for as long as I have. So again, you can take the arms out wide, bring yourself up, and then still you need extra weights. Again, more you're a stiff guy, right? You can take the arms overhead and then come forward, but lead from the belly, lead from the abdomen. And then as you're forward, bring the arms out wide, bring yourself up. So then it's less stress on your back as you come up. I'm gonna do that one more time. I'm gonna come forward, lead from the abdomen, come forward, take the arms out, bring yourself up, and then just sit in just a cross-legged position just for a few breaths. So your hands could be on blocks, you could be sitting on the blocks. I'm going to take my legs into a 90-90 stretch. So just have your left leg forward at 90, and then I'm going to swing. This is just to strengthen the hips a little bit more. I'm going to take the right leg forward, I'll lift it up. You could certainly do this with extra weight, like an ankle weight. You just might need more repetitions to really get the same kind of strength. Not that I'm so big on numbers, I really am not. You could time it as well. So I'm gonna do this side for 2 minutes. And the rep count might be different, because you might need a different rhythm on one side than the other. Partially why I'm doing this is when you have your legs, as we did, the outside of the hips can get really tight. So in yoga, a lot of it is half moon, side angle, triangle, which are all great positions. And then you do some pigeon, right? But not a whole lot. So bring the right leg forward and do a 90 stretch, and then bring it forward. Now, I could use my right hand on the floor. That's good, It's not really, I don't think it's a negative. You're off to the side. If you want to do it where you're not using your hand. But this is so good for the back hip, like rotating it in, and then you can bring it forward. You could keep it up off the floor the whole time. Right? That's another way of doing it. So I'm lifting the leg, and then I'm bringing it back, and then I'm going to come just back into a Baddha Konasana position. So just have the knees out, lifting my hips up off the floor, pushing my knees apart, and then I'm going to bring my hips down, and I'm just going to sit. So let's say you have, I always say this, especially this class, if you have some time, right, lie down, rest. It's so important to restore. Like restorative yoga is definitely something that I do every day to some degree. But say you're like, wow, I feel great. You can stretch out your wrists more if you needed it. Stretch out your legs, whatever. But if you have some meetings or something like that, I think it's good to not do a relaxation. But if you have the time, obviously I would be relaxing if I were you. But I hope this class has been super helpful for you. That's the intent, is to teach the best class that I can and offer the best service that I can. So like I said, I have other classes online. I have a class on Saturdays from 9 to 10. I have a Zoom class on Sundays, and that's from 10 to 11. You'd register for the Zoom class. I have a class on Wednesdays at 6:30 to 7:30, and it's restorative. And it's more like I do a bit of mobility and move people around a little bit, not your typical restorative class. And then I do add pranayama, breath work, and some meditation. That's a great class for people that are just beginning. So if you know people and they're really struggling in life, that's a great place to start. All my classes are donation based. So if you can support the channel, it helps me supporting free yoga, because there's a handful of people that I know of, maybe more, that are taking classes and they can't afford it. So it really helps me support them. So my Venmo is Jon Witt Yoga, and my PayPal is Jon Witt Yoga. And if you don't have those services, you could direct message me, and we could arrange something. Like Zelle is a great service. You could do that as well. So have a fantastic day, and hopefully I'll see you over the weekend. And if not, keep up with the good practice. Namaste.